everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Spiritual Spiral. Thank you so much for joining us. This week, I am your host, Sam Davidson, of course, joined by my lovely co-host, Sari Cohen. How are we doing this week?
I'm great. I'm pretty good. Birthday's tomorrow, so.
Yay! Yay. And we have our amazing return guest, good friend, April Ray. She's a fantastic psychic medium. Thank you for being on today, April.
Thank you for having me. I feel shy. Oh my gosh. Good to see everybody.
I know. So April was one of our first episodes, and a lot of things have happened since then. So first of all, just want to catch up with you. How have these past couple of months been for you, April?
You know what? Everything feels okay, but the minute I step out my front door, I don't feel okay. You know, there's a lot going on in the world. You could feel the rage in the atmosphere. I mean, it's warranted. It's warranted for how a lot of people are feeling. So, and you know, I have a little one, so there have been some serious changes in our schooling systems, and there's still question marks over that in terms of how my son's going to return back to school. And so it's very upsetting a little bit for a mom because, you know, they're talking, there's just different areas of chit chat about what they're going to do with their kids. Like if they return to school, it could be hybrid, where, you know, they could come in like maybe 3 days out of the week and the rest they're home, but then they have to keep the desk, you know, 6 feet apart. And then there's like protection shields up, and they can't have recess, and they can't sit at lunch with other kids, which is very, traumatizing for children, because they're not even allowed to touch each other or hug each other or have that connection, that love connection. So it's very alarming for me as a parent. Oh, Miss Chloe decided to show up for the video. Sorry about that. And, you know, so that's got me a bit worried. And then, of course, our children's health, you know, how is this going to, you know, with the air conditioning inside the classrooms, it's all recycled air. So it's just, and then those masks, I mean, the masks, I understand the whole concept, but, you know, to do math and be sitting there doing math and not being able to breathe, if you're getting nervous during a test, you're breathing in your own air. So my son can only handle it for about an hour at tops, and then he's got to gasp for air. So you can imagine our children going to school not being able to breathe, especially kids with asthma. My son has asthma. So these are just great big concerns for me. And just the nervousness, just energetically on a whole. When you walk out the front door, you can feel and see in people's eyes how afraid they are. You know, nobody talks to each other anymore. Everyone just kind of looks at each other and goes the other way, at least from the feelings I've been picking up on, and just my experience going to the grocery market. People are kind of just minding their own, and I could feel the separation. You could feel a bit of the separation. It makes me sad because that's not the way we were before.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, so it's hard to place exactly what I'm feeling, because I feel different things going on out there, but, and just kind of what's going to happen, what's going to be the new normal for us.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're going to go back to where we were. Just for instance, like 9/11, you know, look what happened around 9/11, and then what was normal then, once 9/11 happened, is not normal now. Then we started checking more of the IDs, getting more involved in the security aspect of boarding planes and so forth like that. So I feel like we're going to be seeing that. We're going to see a big change. We're not going to go back to the way we were. Not 110%, that's for sure. Yeah.
Playing out, like, I mean, obviously in the world of entertainment where Sam and I are doing carpets, or, you know, like I used to do concerts. I was just saying how weird it is. I used to be in the pit with the camera, and then I can't even, that feels like a different universe now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No,
it's hard to say with the concert aspect. I really haven't picked up on anything like that, what I think is going to happen, but I know that, I mean, you can't be in the pit and social distance. Like, you can't, like, that's going to be very awkward. You know what I mean? So I haven't really figured out what they're going to do. I mean, the main focus here is, you know, we have a problem. We have this virus going around, and how do we stop it? You know, I'm actually quite shocked. I mean, I do see people out and about, and I understand that most Americans seem to be behaving themselves, like trying to just, you know, social distance a bit and not touch their nose and touch this, but I see it everywhere. And I've been seeing a lot of stuff coming through my Instagram feed, like, you know, and I got clients sending me stuff, and like, you can see people just really not caring anymore. People are really tired and fed up, which I understand too. Like, I'm not saying, hey, you don't have the right to be like, take this mask off, you know, I can't stand it anymore. But at the same time, I mean, people are still getting infected, and it's just so sad, you know, because we have the elderly we have to think about. We have pregnant ladies we have to think about.
Yeah. I know a woman actually that had a baby at the hospital a few weeks ago, and, you know, was being really careful all throughout her pregnancy. And after she gave birth, she got COVID, and had to be secluded from her newborn child for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And her husband and the baby were okay, but she probably definitely got it from the hospital. Yeah. So
I believe that to be true. I have a lot of nurses and clients, and I have also a lot of pregnant clients right now, and they're very precautious about things. But I do have a few nurses that actually have contracted the virus.
Mm-hmm.
It's so sad, but they're in the belly of the beast, you know, being in the hospitals and stuff. It's so hard. It's so, even with protective gear. So you can imagine, like, when people are just out at the stores touching things, and it's so hard. It's just it's tough right now. Yeah.
I get the feeling it's the number of times you're exposed to it too, or like for the length of time. Obviously, I think your chances increase. So being in that situation where you are on the front lines, I'm also seeing what's so worrisome is younger people who are coming down with it, and they're stuck with things like lung disease now, where they can't recover. You know, even after they contract it, it's like nothing is the same. They can't breathe anymore. Their capacity to do things is just done, and they don't know what the long-term effects are really going to be for them. And these are young, you're talking like 25 to 40-year-old.
You know, then maybe they shouldn't have gone out to the bars. Just saying. That's where a lot of it's coming from. It's bars. You know, once they said you can go, everyone flooded. And I know that, you know, in our first conversation, we all kind of were like, yeah, once they open the floodgates, we're going to sit back and, you know, watch and see what happens before, you know, we take that chance, because it looks like now we're coming into that second wave.
I don't even think past the first. That's the crazy part. We're still in the first, and it's like everybody just forgot, or just that, like you were saying, April, like they're done with it, and it's like the virus is not done with you.
I mean, who isn't? Let's just be honest. Like, let's look at it in a humanity way. Like, who isn't done with it? I mean, all of us are just traumatized, and we don't know where to put our energy. We're all cooped up in our house with our family, you know, driving each other crazy. The kids are going crazy. Parents are exhausted, you know, that have kids, because we're just in a constant state of working, you know, on top, and parenting and work, and people are lonely. They're so in need for love and affection and connection, and they want to be out and kind of have that, with the, you know, take back that normal that was taken away from them. So it's not that I don't blame people. I get it, because, you know, you just want what you want. But it is very strange when over here where I live here in Southern California, my son and I had gone out, and we were just kind of going to the little mall that we have over here, and it's kind of open and outdoorsy. And we saw that it was like it was such a crazy feeling when we were walking by this patio area, and everybody was at the restaurant, and none of them had masks on. And we're like, oh, like we were just, you know, and it wasn't that we were judging. It was just, we're not used to it, because no one single person that was out there in that patio had a mask on. And I understand you got to eat and drink, but I think only when you're sitting down eating and drinking, you're allowed to take your mask off. I was just really confused. There's this kind of gray area. It's like, what is not, what can you do? What can't you do? And me and my son were just adjusting to that feeling. And I remember thinking, how is that okay 110%? Because how do you know that person sitting next to you,
you don't,
it hasn't contracted it? And it's so scary. It's so scary. Yeah. And I've heard of things too coming through my phones. People that have contracted it but had to get home or something, and they're on our planes.
Yeah, I just went on a plane and I looked like a stormtrooper. I had the shield on.
Stormtrooper, you're so funny. Oh my gosh.
It was just a scary thought, because typically, not that many people that were on the plane are allowed to be in such a confined space, anyways. And airplanes have always been a petri dish where people can get sick really easily. I mean, think about someone farts on an airplane, how bad that smells. Like, and then, yeah, but that's all I could think of.
I don't want to think about it yet, but I got you. Oh my God.
It was so scary having all these people around, and yes, they were wearing masks, but and then you see people, the nose is popping out, and just like, and I mean, I was trying to do my best with my shield and my mask. I was suffocating myself, and I was having to take like little breaths and then put it back on. So it's definitely, I don't want to fly again anytime soon. I'll say that much. Road trip next time. But I want to talk about Mercury retrograde.
Yes.
Oh boy, girl.
Yes.
Oh girl.
Of course, that's happening right now, during the time where we least need it. So can you explain a little bit, I guess, to people? Most people know what it is, but what it is, how it's affecting us right now that might be different than other Mercury retrogrades?
Well, we have quite a few retrogrades going on. I know Venus was in retrograde for a bit, and Venus, of course, is all about the heart and relationships, how we deal with connections with people, from personal to romantic to family. And of course, being that we are under the sign of Cancer right now, it's all about the mother, the home. So we're seeing a lot of people either going home or kind of old stuff resurfacing, because retrograde is in Cancer. So, and this is all about kind of finding out stuff maybe about your mom or things you didn't know, or just revisiting an issue, maybe even connected to family. So we're seeing a lot of that going on. Also, this Pluto retrograde that is going on isn't going to be over until, I believe, October 4th. And that one is to me, that's a pretty tough one, because this is all about secrets. And what I mean by that is we're starting to see secrets come out of the government, the police stuff going on, things being covered up that are being seen and heard. People are filming, taking their cameras out. People are not putting up with poo-poo anymore. Everyone is tired. And being that Saturn's in retrograde, I believe until September 29th, I think I'm correct. We're seeing a lot of karma lessons, changes. This is all about social and political change, cultural and social expectations, morals, rules, things like that. This is where I'm seeing a big turnover of events. It's all happening for a reason. And this is what led me to kind of start channel writing. And that's when I contacted you, Sam. I said, hey, I got some notes about the future. Because I feel like by election time, we're really going to be seeing a lot of different stuff going on here. And I believe it has a lot to do with all these retrogrades all coming together. Keep in mind, we're changing the way we work. All of us have been affected in some way with work. Some things have gotten better. Some things have gotten worse. Many people, many clients that I connect with have found themselves working from home, or they come into the office once a week, stuff like that. And many people have lost their jobs. If you want to know what unemployment looks like, just walk out your front door. At least over here in Southern California, there's people out on the streets. People are broke. It's a really sad time. It's really, really sad. And it just kind of frustrates me when I see people in power that have the power to make changes, and they're in their private jets, their private helicopters, and here we got all this unemployment going on, and people are struggling to feed their families, pay their rent. A stimulus check is not going to cut it. You know, I mean, this is a worldwide, this is bad. And that's what Pluto retrograde brings up, old patterns or old things, secrets even, that are, the systems are no longer working. And then with Saturn's bringing up lessons in karma and lots of changes. And so that's why we're seeing a lot of this cultural and social change, political, all of that. But it's all happening for our highest good, I believe, because we needed this. I mean, to me, this is God's way of cleaning house. That's the way I see it. And I just hope that people really ask, this is the question that I felt like, that I kind of felt that Spirit was asking was, what does good leadership look like to you? And I don't know why I got that download, but that was one of the downloads I got. And keep in mind, we have voting season coming up in November. What does good leadership look like to you? So it's not that I'm trying to go down this political highway at all. I just think that we need to really think about a lot, who's in power and all of that, you know, and what is working and what isn't working, which is leading me back to Pluto and unraveling old patterns and secrets, and leading me back to Saturn, what needs to be changed. So we have to look at who's in power, because look what's happening around us. They have the power to change this. So I believe that voting is super important. And I believe that's why I got that download from my spirits, is saying, what does good leadership look like to you? That's what they're asking everybody that's watching today. Yeah. So and I think that's an excellent question to really sit down and say, yeah, what does it look like? Does it look like this? Does it look like something else? I don't know. I mean, but I think it's important to kind of, you know, ask ourselves that question.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard not to at this point with so much. I mean, it's kind of like everybody thought quarantine was the worst thing in the world when this happened. And then to add just, you know, the divisiveness in politics and like you were saying, you know, I believe this has been a long time coming. You know,
absolutely.
These things that we are seeing now in the public that are kind of trending, I feel like this has been going on forever, and people are done. People are fed up, and we have to like break down the system to build anew.
Yeah.
You know,
it's, you know, as far as leadership, it's very, I mean, I think at least the three of us and many other people that aren't a Karen or, you know, a quote unquote Karen, besides them, I think we can all agree that the leadership right now is not working. But, you know, I'm from a family that does have some Republicans in it. They're not necessarily Trump fans, but, you know, they don't like our other option very much either, as far as the Democratic candidate. So it's like basically the lesser of two evils. Like, what do we do when we potentially have two options that are may not make a change ever, either of them, you know? I personally think it needs to come, you know, we're going to have a president. That's we can't get away from that. It's going to be one of these two people. But, you know, it's more about the internal things, the people actually doing the work, the Congress, the Senate, you know, that is what is most important. And then we need a leader that's going to calm us down. And if that's all he does, then so be it, you know.
It's oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead, hon. Go ahead, hon. Go ahead. Sorry.
The important thing to remember in this too is that, you know, whoever is in power, you know, the Democratic Party does come into power, they can reverse things, but there are things like the Supreme Court, and there are things like the lower courts that basically dictate, you know, the way things go socially. You know, that is what's important. You know, whoever is in power, whatever side you're on, you know, that's kind of the main thing we have to look at. Like, whoever is in office is going to be in office, and that's a temporary job. But you appoint a Supreme Court justice of the United States, that person is going to dictate what happens for generations. So, you know, like you were saying, April, that question is exactly
right.
that.
I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to kind of look out your front door and go, yeah, what does good leadership look like to me, to you, to, you know, and I know that I know that the country is split. We got Republican, we got Democrat. I'm not even going there. I'm just talking about energetically as a whole. Spirit's asking the community, hey, what does good leadership look like to you? And you have to really sit down with yourself, look around it, the injustices, the things that aren't working. It's not working. I mean, we're really being stripped and dismantled all the way down to our drawers here. I mean, you know what I mean? That's what Pluto does. That's what Saturn retrograde does. Like, we're really seeing the ugliness in some areas that can no longer work for us anymore. This is about people, you know, and this is about trying to make this work for all of us. We all have to share, we all have to live, we all have to be united. So how do we unite? And there's so many different perspectives of what will work, what won't work. And there's a lot of greed in the world. There's a lot of different things going on. A lot of people, power plays, and people in power not using their power correctly. That's what my spirits keep saying. There's people in power that have the ability to really make a lot of change, and they're not using it correctly. And it's so disappointing. It's so disappointing. And you got to think about the spirits. They're out there in the atmosphere saying, this is where our other ancestors are going to be coming back generations to come to this. And then I asked myself as a mother, I have to raise my son in a world like this, where he turns on his iPad or sees on the news stuff that we've been seeing that's been so god awful. I can't even watch it. And I'm not even a kid. It's so hard on me. So that kind of like leads me a little bit too about what we're going to see around voting season. And I did get a lot of downloads from that. And this has a lot to do with the retrograde, Sam. It really does. I mean, it's, we're not seeing solutions quite yet, but I do believe we can get a new normal. I also am kind of wondering too, and this is something that kind of I felt that was brought up to me a few days ago, is I was getting a female president. Something flashed in my mind about a female coming into office, which I thought was unusual, which we're not used to seeing. Well, we haven't had it yet, you know?
Well, I mean, Biden does rumored to have some potential VP candidates that are female. So, you know, that could make sense. I also wanted to touch on too, because I think that when we talked to you a couple months ago, you did mention what you saw, that you saw protests and all of this. At the time, I was internalizing that as we were going to be protesting being quarantined and, you know, doing all this. But no, you know, that's not what happened. It kind of was like a perfect storm. And I mean, as we all know, this injustice, police brutality has been happening for so long. And it's like, why now? You know, I know that a lot of things were happening at that time with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, like all of that. But if you look every year, every few years, these things have been happening, but they've just not been put on the news. They just haven't been filmed. So why do you think, like energetically and with the planets and all of that, that during quarantine, like when we almost felt like we were out of it, everyone starts protesting for a very important reason, obviously, but it just felt like a lot to digest since we've all already been through all of this the past few months. And then, you know, now there's an even bigger upheaval than there was before.
I think this has a lot to do with our ancestors that have passed before us, from all walks of life, all cultures. I feel like it happened to be that moment, unfortunately, for that beautiful person that passed. So such a huge injustice. It was kind of like sometimes we don't realize our roles in life. And sometimes they can be tragic. Sometimes things can happen to us. But I believe that happened in that moment because the ancestors were trying to unravel the truth. They were trying to show the truth to the world. And it just happened to have all eyes on this gentleman and what happened in that moment. That moment was frozen in time. And I believe that the ancestors are really upset, more like kind of pissed off, you know what I mean? And they're like, no, we're not going to come back into all these new lifetimes to go to a world like this. We're not going to do this. So I feel like, I'm not saying that things are orchestrated like that to be purposely mean or horrible, but sometimes things happen like this to prevent further tragedies from happening. Somebody's soul is like, in a way, their presence, their moment is frozen in time like that. Like, look at Martin Luther King, look what happened to him. He was assassinated, and nobody wants that. You know, things like, nobody wants that. There's other situations too that have come up. I just did a live video on Vanessa Gillen, who disappeared. And unfortunately, some of the stuff that Spirit was telling me it's like, I already know what happened.
For those that don't know, can you talk a little bit about who she is and what
Sure.
happened?
So, it's been a very busy week, and I had a lot of DMs come through about Vanessa Gillen. She is I believe she's I think it's the Army, and she was stationed on a base called Fort Hood in Texas. And one minute she was there, next minute she disappeared. And now they're finding out that there's other disappearances of soldiers from that base, where they're discovering bodies and bones all around.
And she also, hadn't she called her a family member? It said she was sexually assaulted,
yeah,
I think by, someone on the base, and then boom, she was gone.
But, nobody deserves that kind of stuff to happen to them. But, sometimes the ancestors and the spirits and the angels have a way of really shining the light on things. It's ugly, it's tragic, nobody wants to look at it, but we have to look at it. We have to look at the ugliness to make it better. What is wrong? You're telling me that we can't even send our young people, our kids to go to the military and stuff, worrying about stuff like this, especially our women. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about that. I mean, think about the mother, how terrified she must feel. It was just, a lot of my DMs were just piling up. April, we got to talk about this. What happened to this girl? They were really upset about it. And I felt like I needed to say something, and my spirits gave me this push to say something, because we've had a lot of, wonderful chats and talks with everything going on in the news with what's going on from the protesting and everything. But I felt like I needed to kind of shine the light on this as well, because this is what's going on in the government with people of power. So I want people to see this. I want people to know about this. And I'm not trying to say all people in the government are bad. That's not what I'm saying. But I feel like, why is this happening? Why are there people disappearing from a camp or from a base? We're all thinking they're okay and they're getting the training they need. And this is freedom. This is America. This is what we represent. And then we're finding bodies in the woods. Like, something is wrong with that. And they said the cameras weren't running that night.
Oh, yeah.
Really? Right? I'm like, right. And then when the mother came down to look for her daughter, went to her room, all her clothes were missing, cell phones missing, like just vanished like Houdini. Really?
So what did you pick up on as far as what you think happened to her?
The investigation is still open, but I believe that, from what I gathered from the reading and stuff, I believe that her soul is not with us. Mm-hmm. I believe that she was beaten. I believe that she had a love affair or a love interest with someone, and it turned out something went wrong. And I believe that she was not happy about certain things, and she was talking to other people. And I believe it had something to do with probably sex or sexual harassment or something like that. And they wanted to quiet her. So someone said, get rid of her.
Yeah.
And it's so unfortunate. And so it's that easy just to wipe somebody out. So it's just it makes us, I just felt that our community, our public needed to hear more about this. And I felt like, things don't just happen for a reason. Like, this doesn't keep showing up in my DMs for a reason. I'm like, maybe Spirit wants me to talk about this, because as soon as I did, I had so many people really tuning in and bringing up some amazing, important details that I didn't even know about. I was trying to stay authentic to, the energy versus what knowledge has been out there in the news. So, yeah.
I think
girl.
Go ahead, Sari.
No, I was just gonna say, I think it's a time for, and I don't know, April, maybe you can kind of help with this, but it seems to be a time where we really are calling out the things in life that are unjust. I mean, almost to the extreme of just everybody has hit their limit. We are just at such a turning point in, I think, not only our lifetimes, but like the previous generations of like, enough is enough. And these things do need attention. We do need to call attention to what's going on, and especially what's happening with figures of authority, because that seems to be the main theme throughout every one of these instances, are people who have authority who are abusive of their power, or who human element of it has been stripped, and it's become purely about power and authority. And if we are to succeed or to survive, like, it's we have to have that human element. Otherwise, why not AI? Otherwise, then that's who should be in charge, not us, because
But on that note, though, I was going to ask you, April, what you see as far as the future of the police force, and the AI thing is actually something that people are discussing.
Yeah, you can't keep doing this and expect. If you really want to make it fair, you can't. You're RoboCop, or I mean, I
no,
joke.
But like, literally, Arnold Schwarzenegger can be behind the first AI police officer.
They had a RoboCop in Dubai, and I've seen that, but my thinking is much more on like a smaller scale. But I could see it where I'm like, if you really want to eliminate this stuff, and you can't take accountability or responsibility, or like then you have to lose the human element. April, I could go on and on. What do you think, April?
No, it's okay. You're fine. I know it's easy to get passionate about this because, it's such an emotional, sensitive thing, right? I mean, for everything that we've seen. So it's so easy to just take off. I mean, I went on a rant yesterday and I was like, I had to cover my mouth because there were so many things I was trying to say. And I apologize to my viewers. And they're like, April, keep talking. We feel you, So I get what you're saying completely. I believe with the police force, we're going to start seeing, it feels like they're running stats to try to see under their authority what has happened, in terms of who they're busting, who they're cracking down, deaths, did they harm someone? I feel like they're going to be looking at that. I also feel like a lot of police officers will be resigning or letting go of their jobs. I see that. I also do feel like they're changing the way they are arresting people in terms of body moves. I don't even know what this would mean. I'm kind of outside looking in, but Spirit kind of brings up the way they handle them, like grabbing them from under the arm, like these certain moves that I don't,
It is changing because, I mean, the way George Floyd died, and that's what they do. They put, them on the ground like that, and they, put their knee against their neck, like, and that is, and you see, like, he's not the first, obviously, that they do that to a lot of people when they arrest them and think they're unruly or just want to do it for any reason.
But if you notice, if anybody that had watched the video, and unfortunately I watched it because I had a lot of DMs about it and I didn't want to because I knew it was going to be dark, but this gentleman had I wouldn't even call him a gentleman, the guy had his knee on his neck for more than 9 minutes. Do you know how long it takes just for you to pass out without oxygen getting through your airway? So it's kind of like this guy clearly surpassed that point, and I still didn't feel like it was okay, and he wasn't even resisting arrest. So so they really have to, I feel and predict that they're going to rethink how they handle the arresting portions and stuff like that. They're going to be looking at reports within. I also feel too that they're going to be kind of cleaning up who's in charge as well, who's allowing some of this to pass through. In charge of the police departments and stuff like that. They're going to be cleaning house. I do believe that, and passing more laws in terms of how they handle, you know, the arresting and how they book people. I don't know what all this stuff is, but this is just the feeling I'm getting. I also do feel that there's something going to change as well in terms of all the people that are being locked up. You know, they're over capacity, you know, like it's full. So, and keep in mind, there's a lot of also mental illness. You know, people are very depressed, and people are hungry, people are unemployed, people need things. And so how many arrests can you make? I mean, people need food. And so we have to kind of find ways to deal with the unemployment situation and stuff like that too. So, because, you know, I had a girlfriend that got arrested, but she didn't get arrested because she did something bad. She got arrested because she didn't pay her parking tickets. And it's not funny, but I mean, things happen along the way. Okay. And I warned her in January. She'd asked me to do a reading. I said, hey, you need to take care of this. Do you owe some money? She's like, yeah, I'll get to it. And I said, you better be careful because you could end up in jail. And she ended up in jail. And then I got a phone call from her daughter. And long story short, she said she was in a women's jail in Orange County. And she said the things that she saw those officers do, there was girls that they were diabetics and they left them untreated. There was a lot of weird things going on in there from just humiliating things. Wouldn't let them shower when they're entitled to so many showers a week or something like that. Being very sexually explicit to the women in there. And she was telling me, April, I've never seen anything like that in my life. And she was very traumatized. She says, never again, never again. And you don't know what they're feeding you. Like they give you food, but you don't know what's in the food. So, and I just feel that from everything that she's told me, she did say, she goes, I feel like people don't know what is going on. And I said, something's going to happen where we're going to see them shining the light on a lot of these injustices. Just because you're in charge, does that mean you can treat someone like that? We're going to start to see, you know, what we consider illegal or what we can consider to let slide. I mean, it's ridiculous out there. I mean, and then I know that there's a lot of rapists and people that didn't they let a lot of people out of jail or something like that?
At the beginning of quarantine, yeah. They did let a lot of people out of prison. But ironically, they just let some of those poor children out of cages from, that were being held at the border and all of that. They just let them out.
I know. God, I know.
I mean, and what's also interesting too, and it's an extremely overwhelming thought, is that what's going on right now, there is a virus that we can't control. People are dying. The Black Lives Matter movement is making a lot of great changes, but it's also creating, a lot of angry people fighting and, but it's good conversation, I think. But then there's also several other things, I think, there's pedophilia ring that is very rampant, that people are trying to keep under cover, that they're not talking about, but I do think that it's somehow, involved with all of this. And there's a lot of things happening all at the same time. And I think that they're all connected, but it's hard to connect the dots and figure out what's really happening here. Why is this happening now? And I mean, the Me Too movement is still going strong. People are like that 70s show actor. They've been trying to get him for several years now, Danny Masterson. They finally got him. Chris D'Elia, a famous comedian. They got it. Like, he's done, and now it's cancel culture again with the Me Too movement that's rising. And so it's just like, how do we even balance all of these things and how are they connected? It's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I still feel like we're a work in progress with that one. I mean, it's a hot mess over there. And the sex trafficking ring has been going on for quite some time. And a lot of people try to blow the whistle, but they end up strangely dying, disappearing. And that's another thing that I feel like there's going to be more things resurfacing about people that are dying from flu-like symptoms and supposed suicides and stuff like that, are the very people that were trying to blow the whistle and help with this, help lift the veil of this sex trafficking stuff that's been going on. And these are people that have been seen on TV and on the radio and are heard on the radio and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
So,
It's,
it's so sad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Sari, what are your thoughts on that?
It's so, it's so overwhelming. It's so much to take in. I don't even know where to start with it all. I think energetically, everybody is kind of on the same, they're all putting out the same energy, people have just had it on all fronts. And I hope and I pray that we use this moment to not be a trend, to actually keep the fight going for the things that are right for the people. On the good end of it, thankfully, and it's a huge surprise for me, but the Supreme Court upheld some really important decisions lately for LGBTQ rights and with DACA. Yeah. And that was like, every time we get a win like that, it's just like, okay, we have to keep the fight going. We have to make sure that everybody is protected, that everybody, that we all are equal and we all are looking out for each other, and we all want what's right. And hate and divisiveness and anger and fear, I was saying this last week, the only thing that's going to be able to put that fire out is going to be love. That's the strongest power we have. That's that's what will defeat everything I think we're facing.
Yeah, I agree. And before we do pull up some cards, I also just wanted to talk a little bit about people's true colors really being shown during this time, which is, it's part of cancel culture a little bit, and people are losing their jobs, rightfully so. Like, I get a weird satisfaction every time I see a video on Instagram of, someone, a white person harassing a Black person typically, and being horrific. And then everyone in the comments, it's like, all right, internet, do your job. And then someone's like, well, this is Tom blah, 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 and he lives here and he works for AT&T. And then it's like, Tom lost his job, woohoo. And it's like, it's this whole thing. But, there's certain, especially with social media and people expressing their opinions, you'll have a friend or an acquaintance and be like, oh, wow, I did not know that you felt that way. And now I'm really reconsidering our relationship, or, being friends with you. What are your thoughts on that?
There's kind of like this gray area sometimes, like where, it's kind of like when you're sitting at a table, during the holidays. My grandpa used to say, don't talk about politics and don't talk about religion at the table. Like, that's a big, and I would say, why, Grandpa? And he'd say, because people get very sensitive about different things. And I think that a lot of this stuff gets swept under the rug because people are barking behind their closed doors and yelling at the TV screen, but your neighbors can't hear you. What you really think, what's going on, your experiences growing up, how you were raised. I feel like there's a lot of things that have been put in us, how we were raised, how we grew up, what is normal to them. And so then when this whole thing kind of blew up with George Floyd, we really got to see some sides of people. We were just like, wow, I had no idea, so I get what you're saying. And I just kind of feel that, that people they're going to feel how they feel, and they're going to say what they're going to say. And, you really can't change everybody's mind or how they perceive things, because that is their perception of it. And we can try to give them a perspective, but we can't change everyone's mind to think like us or to do things a certain way. People are going to be who they are. And so it does feel like we are. Remember, I told you earlier, Sam, that I felt like when you walk out the front door, there's this feeling of like separation from people, because, oh, you're on that side, I'm on this side, or you think this way, or I think this way. or oh, you're a Republican, so I'm over here. Like you know how people just get they take this stuff very seriously, and I get it. They should. You know, if you feel passionate about something, then go ahead, speak your mind, but let's not hurt each other, or you know, just because you have your viewpoint. And I'm not speaking for racism on this sense. I don't want to be misunderstood. Okay, I'm not saying anything about that. But like for instance, like, you know, I have friends that are Republican. I have friends that are Democrat. You know what I mean? And they'll say something and I get what they have to say. And do I have to agree? I can say, well, no, I hear you. I hear what you say, but they're still my friends, you know? I still respect them, and I don't take it to another level where I have to segregate everybody or segregate myself, or just feel like, oh, I can't be your friend anymore. So it's all dependent on, like, to me, there's a no tolerance for racism. That's like, no way. You know, I never grew up like that. I grew up in a melting pot, and, you know, my son, he's mixed, and it's like, even he was confused when he saw all this stuff on the news. He's like, what is all this? You know, and that's really sad for our kids, because, you know, my son has different walks of life as friends. He doesn't see things like that. So when I do see people on the corner barking about this or that, you know, especially people that are getting people that are getting a bit racist about stuff, it's like, I was shocked about a couple of things along the way. So I get what you're saying, but there are no words for it. You know, it's unfortunate. But I feel like a lot of these people have swept things under the rug as they grew up and never really opened up about it. And because they're seeing all this stuff on the news, it's kind of, remember I told you that what's in the atmosphere, this rage is brewing in the atmosphere. So people are being fused by this. So whatever they were thinking and feeling before, and let's go back to that Pluto in retrograde, all those secrets come out.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like this,
you know what I mean?
I really feel, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, I never knew that. You know what I mean? Wow, you've been living next door to me for like 10 years. I had no idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but you know what? It's a great thing too, because then you can also use your discernment and say, do I really want this person to kind of be in my circle now? I mean, I can still show respect, say hi and bye. No hate, depending upon what they feel or their viewpoints. But there are some people that take it to a whole nother level, and it's very disheartening, because I saw a couple things on social media where I saw a white guy yelling at another white guy, and they were hollering at each other because this guy was saying, quote unquote, all lives matter, and this other guy was saying, hey, we're here for Black Lives Matter, and they were like this at each other's throats, just and I think it was in Alabama or something, and it was tense. I was like, wow, I was waiting for someone to throw blows. Yeah. So it's really hard to answer that question, Sam, but I just feel like I think it's a great time to use discernment, to, as long as you know who you are. And the most important thing at the end of the day, you guys, is to do right. We have a choice every day to do right. Mm-hmm. So a bad guy can do good things, and a good person can do bad things. Every day we make a choice. So what is correct? We need to be good to each other, treat each other with respect. You might have that opinion. I have my opinion, how I feel, how you feel. I'll hear you and hold space for you. But if it gets to the point where it gets nasty, then yeah, you got to kind of really think about the people that are in your circle, and really think some things out, and it's kind of sad. But again, that's the secrets. The secrets come out of who people really are. I mean, just kind of like when you're around a group of girlfriends in high school, and how people change and grow, and you just found out some things about them. You're like, yeah, that's just not I don't play in that paddling pool. Like, I'm good,
Let's pull some cards. How do we want to do this? Like, cards for the collective, cards for us. Maybe, do your magic.
Okay. Okay. I really don't see much of the COVID really kind of, I feel like it's kind of going to go up and down like waves, you know, like where people infected, then they get better. So I feel like this is still going to be in a continuance coming up between now and probably Aquarius season. I do feel like there's a lot of movement here for many people. I think people are moving coming up here between now and probably less than a year. I see a lot of movement and change because I think a lot of people had gone home to quarantine and stuff like that too as well. Yeah. I see travel picking up. I do feel that there is a lot of energy surrounding the moon, which I've been kind of talking about in my Instagram quite a bit. And I have the moon card here, which means also what's going on in the shadows. So it kind of brings up again, a lot of these retrogrades with change, like what is in need of change? What patterns do we need to break away from? Culturally, politically, all of that, which is the very things that have been coming up, which you got the moon card here. We're going to be seeing a change, how we make our money and finance. There's somebody here in power that I feel like, I'm wondering if this is Trump. Is Trump an air sign? Does anybody know?
He's the same birthday as my mom. He's a Gemini, yeah.
Yeah, here's King of Swords. I feel like I'm not so sure if he's going to be re-elected because I have the Tower card here. Not without a fight.
I'm sure.
I'm not seeing that coming ahead. I also do feel there is a woman that could step into power as well. I brought that up. I see a woman here. She's showing up as the Queen of Pentacles, so somebody that's really grounded. There's a possibility for that. Does not mean I'm going to be correct, okay? I also want to bring up too as well that we're going to see, this is talking about, brought up travel, but with natural disasters. There's going to be, I feel like there might be some natural disasters coming up from storms to, I'm even picking up on earthquakes as well, because with the Tower card energy, we're going to be seeing a lot of that going on. I feel like I'm getting a West Coast vibe and I'm getting an East Coast vibe. But this is with earthquakes. I also see, did somebody pass away in Hollywood that was somebody that was kind of high up in Hollywood? I feel like there might be a big famous person that could pass away tragically. It will be like seen and heard on the news because he could be a fire sign, maybe a Sag, maybe an Aries, maybe like a Leo, but I'm getting more of a masculine energy. Somebody famous. Because when I see the star card here, to me, this is like someone famous. This is kind of like how I read my cards. And I get, again, I have the Three of Swords, so just bringing that up. This is on a whole universal level. I feel like with the Magician card here and the environmental factor, to me, the way I see the Magician is, to me, this is the universe. This is like God in the house, kind of really trying to make adjustments. And again, I call it the God sweep. So when we see like God cleaning house, and that's why I feel like all these retrogrades have presented itself, you know? Let's see. Let me shuffle some more cards here. School. We're going to see a change in the way we work and go to school. Okay. For our kids, college, whatever the case is, I feel like there's going to be changes here. That explains, that talks a little bit about Saturn too. Saturn kind of making some big changes. Even Jupiter, finance, so work and going to college to make money and go to, you know, that kind of thing. Oh, this is interesting. I keep getting the King of Swords again. This is Trump. I got the World card, so to me, that's the president. Yeah, look at this. Here's the world. Okay, here's Mr. Trump.
Wow.
And I got the Page of Swords. The country is watching him. They're waiting for him to do something, and they're not very happy with him. There's also something here about money, and when I get the world card thing, I think also, here, I'll show you what I mean. This is money, commerce, and the world. So there could be worldwide commerce things going on with Mr. Trump. I don't know if I'm correct on this, but I feel like I'm hearing something about Russia and China.
Yeah, that makes sense. Right?
Let me see here. People joining forces. Look at this. So we have the ace, excuse me, sorry about that, 2 of fire, okay? So this is people trying to join together to create a better outcome. Even we're gonna be seeing people networking more. So I feel like even though we've been feeling like the segregation from others just due to all this funky stuff going on, and we're, one minute we thought the neighbor was one way and the next minute he's not that way because we see him out there protesting and saying things that are very controversial. So I'm just throwing that hypothetical out there, Sam, because we were talking about that. So, you know, we're going to see people kind of trying to unite more versus how we're starting to see that segregation. It does not mean we're exempt from problems, and it does not mean racism is over, unfortunately, okay? But I feel like we're stronger together. You know, this is not white people problem. This is not, you know, African-American people problem. This is everybody's problem now. We have to stand together. And so when I see people saying certain things, I'm like, ooh, yeah, that sounds a little, that's not okay. And I get what you were saying earlier, what we were talking about. And I feel that we're going to see some unity here as time goes on, where we're seeing that we're better together, not away from each other. Okay. Love is of the subject here. We're going to see a lot of changes in personal relationships and living situations with family, from breaking away, or even people putting things on hold, putting their problems on hold because they have to focus on the children. So we're going to see a lot of that dynamic going on in the home, where we might even see people staying together, not because they want to stay together, but because of there's just too much responsibility going on in the home, which kind of makes sense when I was talking about how we're changing the way our kids are going back to school now. Yeah. So there's more responsibility or more need at the home, which is also with us being in Cancer. Cancer is all about the home, you know? So that's one way to look at it. We're also seeing lovers coming about, new lovers, new, this is the 2, I'll show you guys. So 2 of Cups. So to me, love is in the air, but I feel like just due to all these changes going on, we're going to start connecting more. I mean, now that the COVID restrictions have been lifted, I feel like people are going to start, people are so hungry for love right now that they're going to be very intense about these connections. And so we're going to see new relationships starting to surface. Okay. Let's see what else I can spot here. 7 of Swords. This is around, Death card is Scorpio season. Scorpio season, 7 of Swords, the Tower, 5 of Cups. This doesn't look good, guys. Voting, justice is government. So here we go.
Yeah.
Justice is government. Death card crossing, which means Scorpio season, election, which would be voting season, election. 7 of Swords or 7 of Air means deception and lies. So what is going to be presented to the Congress, and people are going to really be looking at what's being covered up, and they're going to base their decisions on what they feel has been covered up all along, and they're going to be really trying to make some changes here. I believe they're, you know what, after all this, I believe they're going to vote him out. I think Trump is done. Okay?
Yeah.
But he's not going to leave without a fight. I'm going to tell you that right now. This is not going to be pretty. I also see more riots and stuff going on around this time. I also see something, I'm getting, what is it, Washington, D.C., the monument and all that. I see a lot of craziness over there. 10 of Fire, this is all about guilt and stress. This is the government, guilt and stress. They're super stressed out right now, or November. 5 of Cups to me is like a relationship gone bad. So the community and the relationship with the government, we feel like we're not being valued. The government isn't demonstrating our true value as the people, especially if we pay our tax dollars. Are you kidding me? So all our tax dollars are going to people that are in power that could give two shits about us. And if they do, what are they doing? So that goes back to that question what Spirit's bringing up about what does good leadership look like to you? That's what Spirit's asking you. And they really are encouraging everybody that's watching to please vote and read through everything. Understand what's really going on. Do your homework.
Yeah.
Tower card. This is life experience card. Tower card, same thing in traditional tarot. And this is going for either, I believe this is Mr. Trump. He could, again, he's a Gemini, right? So yeah. Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius. Yeah. So I will be surprised if he stays on board. I believe that he will not be reelected. And I see a lot of violence and things going on around this time around voting season. And I do see the opposing parties. So I guess that Spirit means like maybe the Republicans and the Democrats fighting. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of fighting going on.
Can you leave us with any kind of like light at the end of the tunnel, perhaps?
Yeah, please, April, right? What do you got good for us? Let's see. I would say by next summer, I feel like we should be in a better position. I still feel like we are going through that change. I feel like we're being stripped and dismantled just so we can shine the light on darker things that are going on, so we can clean house in the government, in people with people in power. I keep seeing a female in charge. I don't know why I keep seeing this, but this is something that's coming through from Spirit, and they're really adamant about this. I do not believe COVID-19 is over. I see it coming in waves. So I feel like the spikes go up, then they go down, spikes go up, then they go down. I am very, very concerned about this vaccine. Spirit doesn't like it. So I will just kind of, you don't have to agree with me, but I'm not anti-vaccine, but I just feel like there's something very suspicious about it. That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. With summer looks good. Our money is picking up. I see again more travel. I do feel people are getting more spiritual as well. I feel like this is awakening of consciousness with the Unity card here. A lot of angelic energy, a lot of ascended masters energy trying to lift the veil of what's being hidden in the dark. This Unity card is crossing the world, meaning that people are looking through eyes of, trying to look through eyes of not so much judgment, but understanding. And I feel like God is kind of giving us a new set of goggles. And I feel like people are really turning to spiritual things. So they're really trying to send a lot of prayer out. I see a lot of prayer happening all over the world. Okay. Also, Spirit wants to bring up too, I just want to add this because they're nagging me about it. I'm sorry, guys. They don't like how the vaccine is being used on people in different countries to test it. This is a big no-no and they don't like it. Just bringing that up. Whatever that means. Okay. Now, coming here with the Wheel of Fortune, I feel like this is karma being adjusted. Karma being adjusted. And they're saying to all the people that are watching, please defend yourself, defend how you feel, and defend your right to be right. What is right? What is correct? What is true? What is in alignment with love? And this is what we're missing. This is why everything feels out of whack.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I got. I'll show you here. The Magician card means we are the shapeshifters. We're manifesting this. Magician card to me is the God frequency. That's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wheel of Fortune means karma, karmatic adjustments, good fortune. So as long as we hold our ground and we defend ourselves, we're going to stay on path. So sevens mean we are on path. And see how she's like kind of really defending her turf? She's saying, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
No, no, no. So as long as we stand our ground, I believe we can really, I say by next summer, this is the Sun card, Leo season, I feel like we're going to see a lot of great changes. I do see money picking up for us too. For all the people that are working, money is going to definitely pick up. Again, I don't know who this is. There's a female.
Yeah.
Something in the government, a female here. Kind of interesting. I don't know who that would be, but I keep seeing this female here.
Yeah. Well,
kind of interesting.
I have some hopes, that's for sure.
What's that?
I have some hopes of who it might be, that's for sure.
I don't know, you guys. You know something? I feel like between natural disasters and things going on out there in the atmosphere, I feel like the ancestors are really hard at work trying to create a better space for us, for our future generations. I mean, I feel bad for our kids. You know, I have one child, but I could see why the ancestors are really upset. So even though we're seeing all this for the first time, it's been, like Sam said, this has been going on for, you know, it's just been, we can go on and on about it, right? But he just happened to be, Mr. George Floyd happened to be that monumental moment, as tragic as it was, to really awaken us and say, hey, this cannot be happening. We're done.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Well, thank you so much for joining us this week, April. It's always so fun to talk to you, and therapeutic and informative, even though these are crazy times. So where can everyone find you, you know, on your Instagram and all that, and book a time with you if they want?
Oh my gosh, yeah. You can find me at Austria Astoundance. It's Ostre and then Astoundance, all one word because it's Instagram. And to book a reading, you can go to Austria Astoundance Support. You know, I'm open for sessions. I know that I believe my openings start, I know, sometime in August. It's been very busy because due to everything going on from COVID to what's going on in the world, a lot of people are feeling very vulnerable and scared, and they have a lot of questions, which is warranted.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And, well, happy early birthday to Sari.
I know, my gosh, Cancer season. We got a Cancer in the house. Hey.
Yes, thank you.
Are you going to feel any older?
I generally don't. You know, it's a weird, I feel like I'm changing in reverse, but I've found a kind of peace with myself that I just, you know, as the years go on, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful. Yeah.
And so you guys give Sari a birthday shout out. This episode will be airing on Tuesday. Her birthday's on Monday. So the Savvy Scribbler, you know, say hello, happy birthday. And you guys can find me, Sam Davidson, at SamD43 on Twitter and Instagram. And of course, you can follow us on our Instagram at Spiritual Spiral Show. And then you also can find our episodes on YouTube and on Spotify right now. So thank you again, April. And thank you everyone for joining us. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Thank you so much.